All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Artificial Intelligence Hype or Game Changer webinar by Kabisa. My name is Remy Gieling, founder of ai.nl, and this webinar will be about the tools and practices for SME companies to start working with data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. How do you prepare your organization? How do you build the right team and the right people? And what potential products can you start with? And what are the challenges you might face along the way? In short, the opportunities and the pitfalls when working with ML and AI. But first, let's take a quick look at the current state of AI. Innovations in artificial intelligence are moving so rapidly that it's often hard to keep up with the latest news and insights. This video will help you get up to speed about the latest developments in AI. My name is Remy Gieling of ai.nl and this is the AI update for October 2021. Major consultancy firms have published new research about the adoption of AI within organizations. We will take a look at Gartner, Deloitte, Oracle, and also the State of AI 2021. We start off with consultancy firm Gartner, who published its latest hype cycle for Artificial Intelligence Edition 2021. Gartner suspects that by 2025, over 70% of all companies will have integrated AI innovations in their business and IT workflows, which will reduce project failures and increase time to market. Gartner suggests a new role within organizations called model operations, which will reduce the time it takes to move an AI model into production. Secondly, organizations will use resources like data, models, and compute power more efficiently. Gartner estimates about 2025, more than 30% of all drugs and materials will be synthetically discovered using generative artificial intelligence. Thirdly, organizations must develop and operate AI systems within fairness and transparency to take care of safety, privacy, and the society at large, as they call it. And finally, Gartner says there will be a shift in the kind of data that we'll use. We used to look at historical data mostly, but COVID has shown us that historical data isn't always that accurate. So Gartner says in the future we'll look more at small and wide data sets. Next, we'll look at Deloitte. Deloitte published its 4th annual State of AI in Enterprise report recently, and the research uncovers 4 types of companies: starters, underachievers, path seekers, and transformers. And the latter one, the transformers, are most ahead in the AI adoption and account for 30% of all the companies surveyed. 3 things we can learn from those AI transformers. First, put your strategy first and share your vision. And Deloitte says, link your AI strategy to your company's North Star and navigate AI investments by it. Secondly, automate and innovate. Don't over-index on efficiency gains only. With AI, you can reimagine ways you do business too. And last, keep iterating. Develop dynamic ways to assess and adjust your strategy so it evolves with the market. Next up, Oracle. Oracle recently conducted another study with the relationship between people and technology in the workspace. 3 key takeaways. First, 75% of the people want to have access to technology that helps determine their future. 74% of all the people believe that robots, smart technology, AI-driven software can support their career better than a human. And 48% say they are more likely to stay with a company that uses advanced technologies like AI to support their career growth. And finally, rules and legislation. Just as cars didn't used to require a seatbelt or an airbag to operate, developments in AI have mostly been free of any regulation, and that is about to change. The European Commission is proposing rules and legislation. They look at 4 distinct levels of AI with different requirements. They start with minimal risk products like spam filters, which only need a code of conduct. Then you got the limited risk applications like chatbots or deepfakes, which require transparency. So if you create a chatbot or a deepfake, you need to inform the public that you are talking with the chatbot are seeing synthetic media. The third group are high-risk applications, which really touch the lives of humans, like self-driving cars or robots that operate on you. They need thorough assessments before they can be used into practice. And the last group are the unacceptable risk group, like social scoring algorithms being used in China currently, and they're banned altogether. And as more companies innovate with AI, they should be mindful of these 4 levels of AI that the European Commission is proposing, and they are expected to be applied in the next 2 to 3 years. This was the AI update for October 2021. If you want to keep updated about the latest news and insights, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter of ai.nl. We go back to the studio now to talk about the opportunities and pitfalls of applying AI within your business. And we're back in the studio of Kabisa, and with me today is, first of all, Sebastiaan Laurijsse. He's the Innovation Manager at the AI Innovation Center. Sebastiaan, welcome.
Thanks, Remy.
So good to have you here with us here today, because you have tons of experience in working with data and AI. Excited for today?
Excited, curious how we can help the small, medium enterprises to adopt AI as part of their journey.
Yeah, exactly, because you started your career actually at NXP, which is a very large corporation. So is there something in your extensive knowledge of working with these big corporates that SMEs can learn from as well?
It's nothing new that we're doing, right? So the big thing is like we would demystify what is the real concept of AI. How do you start using data and data-driven decision-making as part of your development processes, your value chain of the organization, or the ecosystem you operate into it. And those large Excel sheets are now being replaced by those big data lakes, suggesting decisions, but the magic is still by making the right decisions at the right moment.
Making the right decisions at the right moment, and how data can help with that. We'll talk about that in a bit. But next to you is Pascal Widdershoven. You're the Technology and Innovation Manager here at Kabisa. Kabisa is a software company, of course. It's helping many companies with their digital products. How important is AI and machine learning at Kabisa?
I think AI and machine learning are a great development. I think they're really a game changer. I think in the future we will see really new ways of developing software, and software will become very different than it is today. So I think AI really opens new other possibilities that weren't possible before.
First of all, we have a few poll questions for you today, our audience, and let's start with the first one. The first poll question we have for you is: my organization is already data-driven, and you have the option not at all, somewhat, totally, or data what? So please answer the question. We're very curious to know about your state of data in your organization. And also important to know, if you have any questions today, please put them in the chat, and there are multiple experts backstage working to answering all of your questions today. So, data. Sebastiaan, first of all, people these days always start to talk about AI and machine learning, but they often forget where it all starts, right?
Yeah.
The data.
Yeah, I think the most of the time is spent on getting the right data. And I started today with it's nothing new, right? Because presenting a presentation or an Excel sheet in front of your management to take a decision on the next business case, or what is the right thing, the market fit, the product fit, or the potential addressable market, it's nothing new to use data and data sources to do so. But the enabler that's available now today, that's automating everything after that the data suggests your decision, that becomes critical.
Yeah.
So you can have conclusions on the data automatically, like in the healthcare, for example. So the excessive amount of data comes available, but the correctness, the accuracy, and the availability of data becomes more critical. And there's where you have spent much more time on. Where is the data? How do I get it? Is the data correct? Is it clean? And it's a thumb rule that 70% of the time is spent to clean your data.
Yeah. It's a joke within the data science community, right? That a data scientist spends 70% of his time cleaning up the data and 30% of his time or her time complaining about the fact that
The
he or
data
she
is
is
not
only cleaning up the data.
Yeah, because the algorithm does the work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Pascal, why do you think it is that people, when we talk about AI, immediately think of big projects like self-driving cars or talking computers or even the Terminator?
Yeah, I think those examples, they are the most extreme, So people have this image, I guess, by now that AI is like the Terminator indeed, as Skynet, and these very extreme solutions, let's say, right? That's the image that a lot of people have in mind when they think about AI. But I think in reality, AI can be, performed on a much smaller scale as well. Right, and indeed, ultimately, it comes down to data. It starts with data, and that's really where you need to put your first focus if you want to start using AI.
Can we say that AI is actually a bit boring?
Oh, that's quite a bold statement. But the majority of the part to get it working is quite boring.
It's quite boring.
Quite boring exercise.
Yeah, to get the car running is actually quite boring. Once it's moving and gets up to speed, maybe it gets a bit more exciting along the way.
And I think also coming back to the data, getting the right data, I think it's what's challenging about it is it's also like a multidisciplinary problem, right? It's not just a data scientist who can do some magic and create the right data. You also need to have, folks from the business involved to make sense of the data, right? So you really need a lot of different people, to make sense of your data, to get it in the right format, to be able to use it in AI solutions.
Yeah.
So it really requires a big team with different expertise.
Well, one of the questions that I think the audience might have is, all right, so now I know, I need data first before we can start to talk about algorithms and machine learning and deep learning or neural networks. But where do I find the data?
Yeah, that's the interesting question there. Where do I find the data? And I think that's where it starts. I think also in scope of Kabisa, where the engineers develop software, they need to start designing the capability of making data available as part of the development process towards specific capabilities. I always call it, we have 3 domains. You have the sense, the think, and the act.
Sense, think, act.
Yeah, to robotic automation. And that's the purpose. We would like to automate decision making. It's decision support or decision automation as part of the process. To do that, you need more data to take the right decision. If you want to take full automated decisions, it should be the right one, right?
Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out, wrong decision.
Wrong data in, wrong
decision being made.
Yeah.
And I think where it comes in with the concept of designing from the start to bring the data in a way available into the process that allows you to make the next step.
Yeah.
So every company today has processes or does automating, being healthcare, being it industry or retail. What do I need to do at the beginning of my product development to make the data available later on to optimize the processes, efficiency or quality or anything else?
Yeah. But then again, Pascal, you can start collecting every data point there is, every mouse click a user makes, or every time he or she presses a button. How do you decide what data you want to collect and what you don't? Because otherwise it just garbage in your database as well.
Exactly, and that's very difficult, right? Because what data you need depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Right. So indeed, oftentimes, if you're just starting out, you have no idea what data you should start collecting.
Yeah.
But then again, it's pretty cheap these days to store large amounts of data, right? So I would say just try to store as much data as you can, and then later in the process you can always start cleaning it up, finding correlations between the data. But then at least you have data to work with.
Yeah.
So I think the first problem really is getting data, not even which data, but just getting data. Yeah. I think that's really where you should start.
Yeah.
And then from there you can take it depending on what you're trying to achieve. Then you can start looking at your data and see which of the data you can use for your purpose.
So now we know that we have data, that you have to collect lots of data if you can, because storage is as cheap as, I won't say the word these days. So not to offend anyone, but it all comes down, first of all, by making a clear path of what you want to achieve, of course. What is it that you want to automate? Is that right?
I think it's a good question. So what I think where you would be able to release the most value towards your customer. Yeah. Or you would like to solve a specific business problem, or you don't understand your problem and you are trying to find a potential issue why things are failing.
Potential value maybe.
I think the word is value, and I don't want to use it too much because otherwise we get numb for the word of value. But I think if it's code quality, you would like to have as much debug data available to assess where your problem is. They don't get enough coffee, so the quality goes down. Those correlations are potentially even possible. But also getting the feedback, so amplify feedback loops everywhere into the process, customer interaction, code quality, development, testing, the depreciation of your hardware and such. You want to have that insight. But still, because data and storage is cheap, but lots of data becomes expensive. And so it's a balance between what problem do I have, which value do I deliver, and which problem do I try to solve. And I think where other methodologies comes in, like Agile, it's easy to bring testing hypothesis. And there's where I think comes clearly testing this potential value hypothesis. Does this work? And with data available, you can do it in a split second.
Yeah, Pascal, what do you think? Many organizations that I talk to, or sometimes have the feeling, well, we should do something with AI because it's a hype word and we don't want to miss the boat. But they forget that to start with an exact problem. Do you recognize that as well?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think so. You can go both ways, right? You can say, well, AI is available as a technology, and how can I use it to deliver more value for my customer? Or you can go the other way around and say, okay, what problems do we have, and is AI a potential solution there?
Yeah.
Because I think there are many other ways, of course, also to bring value, and it doesn't have to have AI.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you can go both ways, and I think both are valid. It really depends on what you're trying to do. If you have a well-running business and you're just looking for some new innovation, some new ideas, then AI might be a nice topic to explore. What can we do with AI?
And maybe some practical examples as well. At the AI Innovation Center at the high-tech campus, there are many AI startups and scale-ups who are developing innovative solutions and products with machine learning and deep learning.
Yeah.
Can you maybe name a few examples of those companies where you think, wow, that's a really cool example of using the technology in the right way?
I think we bring those communities a lot together, and I think we let the ecosystem work for each other. So those companies are interesting. Like one of them tried to solve the problem of misfit of clothing, right?
Yeah.
But then you think, right, okay, that is for the customer experience. Meanwhile, he's also fixing the whole logistic at the back end about those orders that returns. So that's amazing.
It's a huge environmental problem as well.
So it contributes to the DSGs that we have set, right? So to reduce the carbon footprint, etc. And I think that's great. So you can see where you have potential one solution in a startup ecosystem where it brings multiple benefits towards the community.
Yeah.
The other one is, for example, focusing on helping, optimizing manufacturing. We have seen that in manufacturing becomes more dominantly important for the region of Europe. Semicon is pulling in. We see other companies also bringing car manufacturing to Germany.
Yeah.
So we see that we get startups who's focusing on optimizing using data in the, I don't call it classical, but helping organizations in the manufacturing industry optimizing the processes.
Yeah.
Where we have seen optimizing the amount of cheese on a pizza, towards really reducing the lead time or improving the quality of the manufacturing process.
Yeah. What kind of cool innovations do you see as well, Pascal?
Yeah, I think the difference with AI is that in the past we were able to use data to analyze what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Right, and to use data to make sense of what happened, to think about optimizations.
Yeah.
And with AI, that changes to we can actually start predicting the future, right? And we can, for example, if you have a digital twin, you can start making changes to the environment.
Yeah.
And you can simulate what effect it will have, right? So you can really instead of just looking and trying to make sense of the past, you can really start to look into the future. Yeah. And even experiment there.
Yeah, even within manufacturing, of course, where usually we used to wait until a machine broke down, or an elevator, or an escalator. Yeah. And now with all these data points, we can proactively see, oh, well, maybe this needs maintenance, this part. And it really has value for people in the end.
It helps. So the consumer doesn't accept poor quality anymore. So we cannot accept that the phone breaks down in 18 months, so that was a little bit normal in the past. So the quality norms are increasing. So what you do see, I have a background in semicon, where you have seen that the amount of compute required to validate if a chip that's been created operates between 15 degrees below zero and 100 degrees above zero, or the life cycle, the degradation of materials, they are starting to simulate a lot. That's a digital twin, right? So they have a potential chip they want to ship to a customer or manufacturer, and they're going to test what if it's being exposed to there, so that the quality is being increased, because we don't accept anymore. A car needs to run for at least 15 years as life cycle. 15 years. That means that the quality needs to be so good, and the only thing how you can do it is to bring as much as variance into the development process and validate by using data and past experiences.
And these are experiences you can never do in real life, because you can never have a car drive for 15 years and collect data. But if you do simulations with real life data sets, then you can really see what's happening, what you expect to happen.
And that's what I think I like, is the validation of the algorithms by physical experiments that you see. For example, the degradation of a tire, that you still see a factory where they are moving a tire, the whole like in the blue, yellow IKEA, that they have where they are testing if the chair remains valid. That's a physical verification, but now you know by learning data how the wood operates, how the leather operates, what the average weight of an adult is, and then you start putting all that data together, and then, oh, this chair doesn't survive 3 months. And that's the interesting part of it. Where we need to go physical, we now have the opportunity, by the amount of compute, to go virtually.
So people are watching. They all work in, mostly work in SME companies. They want to know, okay, I want to start a project with machine learning. I want to collect the right data and maybe try and predict the future as well. Where do we start?
So defining the business problem or defining the business opportunity. I think what you see a lot of struggles with leaders, and I don't know how you experience it, they cannot translate their business strategy into a data problem. So that's where I feel where we bring a lot of help as AI Innovation Center is, what is your business challenge and how potentially could AI, data, automation, software help you in that.
And it really helps to get a perspective from the outside world, of course.
Exactly, yes. Because, I mean, AI can be a solution, but you really have to know what is possible in order to even consider it as a solution, right? So I think the very, very first step is really to start educating people about, what's possible. Because only if you know what's possible, then you can start considering those solutions. And of course, when you then decide, okay, we are going to use AI or machine learning, then of course there comes the whole part of how are we going to do this. But it really starts with knowing what is possible. We could use AI here. Let's explore if machine learning would be helpful here. I think it really starts there. We really need to start educating people such that they start considering AI as a solution.
One of the important missions that we have as AI Innovation Center is create awareness. Just demystify the topic of AI. What is it? How can you leverage it in any kind of industry? And then what happens if you create awareness? Like, ooh, I'm getting interest into it. What can it do for me? And then indeed, it's about knowledge. Do you have the right knowledge? And the thing what you see in large enterprises, that they have the opportunity to hire a lot of consultants and external advisors. What you see in SMEs, they need to develop the skills often from within, or develop talent acquisition strategy and employee value proposition to get the right people in. That's a huge challenge today. It's an extreme challenge to get the right talent in. But the phase of developing the skills to use it for the purpose of your company, I think that's critical. And honestly, if you start doing it today, you're maybe potentially a little bit late already.
And we'll talk about the talent pool you need to build a good AI product or innovation in a minute. But I think it's interesting that you said that you really need to start with knowing what AI is, but also what your biggest business challenge is. And indeed, these big corporations have the big consultancy firms they can hire, but many SMEs, they're working so hard every day on their current proposition. It's very hard to think about the challenge of tomorrow. So how can these SMEs get this perspective on which business challenge it's best to solve with data? I think it's mostly with getting external feedback, like from companies like Kabisa or maybe the AI Innovation Center.
But I think also. When I try to explain AI to people, I always say that AI is very good in solving problems that is difficult to solve with a traditional software. Traditional software is very rule-based. You really need to encode all the rules into the software to be able to automate something. And AI is very good in situations where you cannot express the problem in a exhaustive set of rules, but you can teach it. You can show a computer how to do it.
Yeah.
And if you think about such kinds of problems, for example, spam detection, it's impossible to, list out all the rules, what is spam and what isn't.
Yeah.
Recognizing, a dog in a picture or, driving a car. Those are all examples of things you cannot express in an exhaustive set of rules.
Yeah.
So if you start looking in that area where there's some inherent complexity or uncertainty, I think that's a very good area to start exploring. Okay, what in this area can we do to bring value to our customers? Because that's something that wasn't possible in the past without AI, and now it's becoming possible.
We talked about talent, and indeed, it's very hard to find the right people in the current market. People are fighting for technology talent.
Yes.
But do you think, is it a problem for SME companies? Shouldn't SME companies look at their current business and hire external expertise when it comes to AI?
So the war on talent also drives, let's call it the prices, right? That's currently what you see. So it becomes it's not yet a commodity.
Yeah.
Software developments in the past, we now have more software developments, but the demand is so high that there is again a shortage on software developers.
Yeah.
So that drives cost, that drives availability, and I think also a big change is in the mentality of the young software developers, where, and I'm also a millennial, so let's not exclude anyone on this one, but it's purpose-driven. So once I was working for a company and building a new operating model, the let's call it the advisory organization said you need to organize yourself to only employ employees for 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months, right? So how does my onboarding look like? How do I get, and it means how do you get people in who really wants to solve and finds a purpose? While the one is focused on sustainability, the other one was technology, the one was helping customers, the other one is more wants to operate in healthcare because he wants to help people. And this is how I look into it. How do you bring in right employee value propositions towards the, let's call it community where you hire and attract talent?
Yeah.
And that's where you potentially see an interest of companies to build that we have a proper mission. With data, you can solve a lot of problems, but it's with any company, it's focus, focus, focus. You need to bring value to a specific group of individuals, or you need to be as large as some companies that they can serve every customer in the world.
Yeah.
So the proposition that you bring in needs to be very clear. I think that's critical, but still the domain knowledge, and I think that's what we have seen in other events, that domain knowledge to solve your problem is critical. So just only having a data scientist who's great with statistics, is great with science and math, doesn't solve your problem.
Yeah.
He does a small part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You need to have domain knowledge. So those senior experts in that domain are still critical, and the ability to collaborate with that team and develop their skills to solve data science issues or solve problems or opportunities with their data is becoming critical.
So actually what you're saying is that within an organization, many people start with hiring maybe a few data scientists or machine learning engineers and put them in a room together on the 3rd floor in a corner. But those people have no idea what the problems are of the company, what they need to solve.
Indeed, you cannot solve data or AI problems or any kind of problem, without knowing, what you're trying to achieve, right? So that business input is critical. And we also see that as a software development company, we also see that, right? We really collaborate tightly with our customers. Yeah. So we form teams where we have people from our side, the developers, product owners, user experience designers, and they collaborate together with customers. There's no single Kabisa team who works without customer collaboration because it's not possible. You cannot build software, be it AI or not AI, you cannot build software or a product, without the business and the domain expertise. Yeah. It's crucial.
And I think also proudly stolen somewhere else. Last year we had the AI conference where one of the speakers says AI is commodity. And that made me think okay, why is he saying at this moment in time that AI and machine learning, those algorithms become a commodity? Of course, we now have the unicorns needed to develop it because the capabilities are shortage, scarce. But honestly, it's science, it's math, right? But the models, the data models and the domain data That's critical. And then you need those experts who are living in the dark sides of the organization, understands how the company generates its value, what the unique value proposition is that the company brings into the market. And I think that's what also for the SMEs, they have a unique position still. They already have the supply chain, they already have the product, and now they can use even data to improve or bring new products, smart products into the outer world.
Yeah. So basically, if you want to make it a success and you want to hire your own team without external help, then you really need to get those people on the same desk as the business advisors, as the product owners.
Definitely. Yes.
And the customer.
And the customer.
Yeah. End user. Well. The end user.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the biggest hurdle at this point, you think, for SME companies to start with data and machine learning?
So I will skip some words, but what is beep AI? So they just don't understand yet the concept of AI, and it's not only limited to SMEs, it's to all leaders of corporates, enterprises,
governments, even.
Supervisory boards. The understanding of technology. In the past we had heroes who understands the whole company, the whole ecosystem, but by automation, software, the complexity is increasing and increasing and increasing. We don't have 1,000 servers, we have millions of servers, we have containers, we have short-living instances everywhere. So the real-time world is so changing that it's to understand is too complex. And you need to start by just starting to understand what AI is, and more importantly, what isn't AI.
Yeah.
And that's something I would advise anyone, develop your awareness. A day not learned is a day not lived. Start taking your responsibility to understand what technology means for your organization, your team, your people, your customer.
Yeah.
Even if you're in an advisory board or you're a supervisory board, it's critical, because those who don't start using AI or data will be overtaken by competition.
Yeah, what do you think, Pascal?
Yeah, I agree completely, and that's indeed why I said you really need to start with the education part, because then it doesn't really matter if you're going to build up your own team or if you're going to hire external expertise.
Yeah.
You can only do that if you know where you're going, right? So indeed, that's definitely where it starts.
And how do you do that? Of course, I can promote my ai.nl newsletter here, but maybe you have other sources as well.
The State of AI, the AI Innovation Center. I think what makes it very interesting, so Nederland Leert is an initiative of the Dutch government that brings in it. In Brabant we have an initiative, I think it's called 10,000 people in 10,000 days. I don't know how it's being called, so if I'm quoting it wrong, please correct it during the recording. But I think that's, we have so many opportunities where NL AI study platform.
Yeah, you have the Nederlandse AI cursus, the Dutch AI course.
So it's already so much available, but when I go out and I go just into my family, ask, did someone do a training about AI?
Yeah.
Why would I do something about AI? Yeah.
And that's the problem, of course. We all know we need to update our knowledge on this part, but then at the end of the day, you had a busy day, you had lots of meetings, and it's more interesting to just tune into Netflix and watch Bridgerton or something else.
And let the algorithm work for you to check the right video, because that's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And we really need like accessible material, right? I think a lot of the material out there is very, technology focused.
Yeah.
At least
dry, maybe.
What I have seen. So I think we really need to work on like accessible material, just to get AI business sense, so to say. I think that's really where we do need to have content.
But I think, just to be honest, what we're doing from the Dutch government perspective, where we have some of the advisors driving this as the digital agenda, the AI agenda, I think we're doing a lot. We are not the most, let's call it, early in stage, but I think we are catching up quite well. And I think the understanding about AI becomes more and more extensive. And I think we all, like Kabisa, but also AI Innovation, has the responsibility to make this aware to our customers, but also to the ecosystem as a whole, universities, partners and suppliers, to help people understand and organize this kind of events and webinars to understand how AI/data can help you.
Let's take a quick look at the rules and legislation that is coming up, because for a long time now, companies, big corporations, but also governments, could do whatever they want with AI and machine learning. We've seen it internationally with camera tracking systems, maybe in China, where facial recognition,
social scoring,
the social scoring is just really in daily practice. Last week we even saw a robot dog with a big cannon on its back that's being developed by an American company called Ghost Robotics. Scary things. So the European Union is really getting up to speed by getting some rules into place. What do you think, Sebastiaan?
So one of the conferences I was at, so innovation will be limited by law regulation.
Yeah.
But is it a bad thing? And that's something difficult to decide today. However, what I'm saying, automated decision making. Mm-hmm. So if you give your camera images free of your driving, then you can lower your insurance, or you can your lease contract will be lower because you're a more safer driver, or you wear less tires. So so I believe it needs to be a choice, right? So if you want to, you have ownership of data, and that's what I like about European Union, is that we own our data. Mm-hmm. We have the right to say and being forgotten. That's different in other regions of the world, where someone owns all your data versus where the company owns the data. And I think that's important still, because I think that's what true people safety and true people satisfaction is, by you know what happens with your data. While innovation shows the capability of predicting your next decision and turn on the light, helping you prevent accidents. So that's great, right? So it's bringing better health, better safety, a longer life, but less privacy. And it's a balance.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where you choose to give your data away. Therefore, you pay less insurance. That's a choice we deliberately need to make. But are we adequate to take that decision? Do we understand the consequences of those? And I think that's where, again, education, awareness, and the role of some of the organizations is critical to educate that.
Pascal, what do you think? Because I can also imagine that maybe people within these SME companies think, oh wow, there's even more rules coming along. Maybe this is not for me.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this. I mean, on one hand, I think indeed it's such powerful technology that, perhaps you do want to, have good legislation around it. On the other hand, I'm really afraid it will also, hamper the innovation, and that would be that would be bad.
Yeah,
let's say, right? But
we
I
even
do
saw it with GDPR, basically, right? That it's a good thing, and it's a good thing that companies need to be wary about our data. But at the same time, some companies now think, wow, this is too much paperwork. I don't collect the data at all.
Indeed, and I mean, if you look in practice, there are so many GDPR violations. Just in the let's say the cookie pop-ups that by default are checked. That's not allowed according to the rules if you follow them very strictly, but it happens all the time, right? So the question is, what is really the value of such legislation?
Gray areas.
It's hard to say, but I do agree with Sebastiaan that I think we actually can take more steps still towards you owning your own data, right? Because right now it's, yes, in GDPR terms, you have the right to be forgotten, but it's still, I think for the average consumer, it's very hard to see, who has my data, what data is out there. And I would really like, the whole society to move to a model where we are more in control of our own data, where I can say exactly, well, this data of me, my data, I want to share with this and that company. Yeah. I think we have many steps to take there and many things we can improve still.
And another angle that I would like to add, I think what we have seen in autonomous driving is to choose between someone who's 40 and one is 20, which one to hit if you don't have another choice as a car.
Yeah.
I think that's where, that was an interesting case. And it's still, my last understanding about this topic is that it's always the driver who's still responsible, even if the algorithm takes the decision, right? So that's the thing. Even if the algorithm can potentially predict consequences that you didn't have or capability, like we see with chess, but this is sometimes a choice of life or death, right?
Yeah.
Or
these dilemmas are so cool, right? Indeed, who to hit or who to kill. Does the car kill the driver or does the car kill
and even
the
more
pedestrian?
Important, so you get an automatic reminder that from your dentist, but now you go to the hospital. Then you need to go into the scan. You don't see only someone who says, please lie down, there's the address, there you're going to go. And then suddenly you get an email with your, let's call it verdict, you're ill terminally. The technology allows us to do so. The technology allows us to provide that, let's call it prescriptive part, completely automated with decision making. And how more data they have, they can tell you, you're ill because you smoked or something else. But then it comes about ethical. Therefore, I think also the framework provides you some ethical frameworks, like how do you deal with this data? How is this free will? Is this still perceived being human? But I do see that the ethical framework operates differently for my children, who looks differently to give their privacy away than I was used to. Yeah. So those evolvement isn't just an interesting topic. So I don't have any answer on it, but I know what I want. but I do know that my children will have different needs and wishes, and the elderly, again, completely different, right? Yeah, where they even don't want to share their telephone number with their neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's becoming interesting to see how this evolves over time, and I think legislation is important. And the techie me says, but it shouldn't limit innovation.
To the final part of this webinar, I want to take a sneak peek together into the future of AI, and we have another poll question, the last one for you. I am most excited about the AI future with A, self-driving cars, B, robots that clean my house, C, an algorithm that manages my mailbox at work, or D, something else. Please put it in the chat. Pascal, when we take a look at the future with even smarter algorithms, what are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about the consequences of when we start adopting AI, what will happen. So for example, if we can have AIs that will help us in mundane day-to-day tasks, that means that we as humans have more time for the things that really matter, like interacting with each other and
automating boring tasks.
Yeah, indeed. So really taking away that boring tasks of your life that you now have to do, like the chores. That I think that's for a consumer, that's a really interesting space, and especially because it allows us as humans to devote more of our energy to things that really matter and that cannot be solved by computers or robots. And I think actually that's something that will happen. So AI can start doing more and more things for us, but I think the thing that makes us human, the empathy, the feelings that we have, that's something that an AI can probably never also have. So I think the value of that, the human part of it, I think that value will increase.
Yeah.
So we will, start automating more and more. But I think the human side, that's something that we as humans will always have.
Sebastiaan, last but not least.
Yeah, I concur. Future is human. So I think that's critical. So extend our life, healthiness, etc. And therefore, there's only one planet. So if I say where I think the most effort should go to is to make sure that we extend the lifetime of this planet by focusing on the sustainability goals, and reduce carbon footprint, optimize, reduce traffic, but still make sure that the people that live on the planet has a bright future and healthcare. Yeah.
Amazing. I had a great time talking to you today, and I think our viewers did as well. Sebastiaan, thank you so much for sharing your insights from your career and from your current position also at the AI Innovation Center, which is a great ecosystem for AI startups, scale-ups and big corporations at the high-tech campus. I can highly applaud anyone who's in the neighborhood to drop by to take a visit. And Pascal, thank you to share your insights as well. It's so cool to see companies like Kabisa investing in sharing the knowledge on AI and making it accessible for every company and every professional. So very good effort from both of you. Thank you so much for watching to this webinar, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.